Oh, any initial thoughts on today's big news about Cliven Bundy?
We're really glad that justice was served, and this has been a long time coming with Cliven Bundy. He broke the laws here in Nevada 2 years ago. He should have been in jail 2 years ago, and now he's finally in jail in Oregon. It took Oregon to do what we couldn't here in Nevada. And now we're finding out that he'll be extradited back to Nevada and face charges here for his 2014 crimes. And, these folks broke the law, both him and his sons and their terrorist extremist followers. They went to Oregon, they broke the law, and now they're being held accountable for it, and we're really glad about that.
Well, speaking of what we couldn't do here in Nevada, why do you think it's taken so long and it took this whole sojourn to Oregon to finally make this happen?
I wish I knew the answer to that, Andrew.
Yeah.
I think we've all been asking that question for a very long time. Why has it taken so long for us to have Cliven Bundy in jail? Why has it taken so long for his terrorist followers to be in jail? I include Michelle Fiore in that. She was out there inciting violence.
Why was she there?
Why was she there in 2014, and now why was she just in Portland, Oregon? She has been a part of this whole mess. She caused this mess. And so for me, her and people like Shelley Shelton and John Moore, they're part of this problem too, and we should hold them accountable just like we're holding the Bundys accountable, because they're an accomplice to this whole mess. Sure, she went up there and tried to fix the situation, but you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Once it's out and this kind of terrorism is out in our communities, taking our communities hostage both here and in Oregon, you can't take that away. She helped start that whole thing, and she needs to be held accountable too.
And in case you didn't know, I know last fall Michelle Fiore endorsed Ted Cruz for president. Sure. In 2014, he, along with many other Republicans across the nation, basically endorsed Bundy's cause until that New York Times story was revealed, was posted. And yet, since then, haven't heard too much from them. Do you hope this, perhaps in light of what's been happening, this will come up at the Republican debate and the candidates will talk some more?
Absolutely. I think if they have a responsibility, if they're coming, they're going to be here next week. All of the candidates will be here next week for the Democratic and Republican caucuses. They have a responsibility to talk about what they will do with public lands. And to me, ensure that they will keep public lands in public hands. That's what we call on all candidates to do, regardless of party. The fact that Michelle Fiore has endorsed Ted Cruz, the fact that many of these folks have talked about their public lands plans and, seizing this land back that doesn't belong to the state and giving it to the state somehow so the state can manage it, which we don't even have the funding sources to fund our schools. How are we going to manage this land if, God forbid, there's a natural disaster or something like that? It just doesn't make any sense. These Cliven Bundy lands plans, they make no sense. We would have to raise taxes to even pay for them. And we just don't have the resources or the capability to manage this land. It's best left to the federal government, and that ensures that real people still have access to that land, to go on that land and recreate. So, we should be asking all candidates their positions on public lands. And frankly, those who have spoken out against keeping public lands in public hands and spoken out in support of Cliven Bundy, people like Crescent Hardy, people like Dean Heller, we need to hold those candidates accountable, those elected officials accountable, and ask them why they support Cliven Bundy, why they support terrorists, and why they support them holding our communities hostage. Because at one point, Dean Heller called Cliven Bundy a patriot. We've seen on multiple occasions. Crescent Hardy was out on the Bundy Ranch when this all happened in 2014.
He has a history with the Bundys.
He has a history with the Bundys. And so those folks, including Michelle Fiore, need to be held accountable for their actions.
And especially in light of what's been happening these past few days, do you think Lieutenant Governor Hutchison and the Nevada legislators should reconsider this campaign they've been on in terms of trying to get more federal public land transferred to the state?
I always think that they should reconsider these notions that somehow we need to give the land back to the state. We don't own the land. We gave that land up as a state to become a state, and so that we've never owned that land. It doesn't belong to us. So, and the feds are doing a great job managing it, and they have a system that works, that they can sell some of that land back to the state when it's needed, and that system has been proven time and time again to work. So for me, I think it's pointless. This whole notion that we need to seize back these lands, it's a pointless movement, and frankly, it's just one that doesn't make much fiscal sense either. You know, these fiscally conservative people will end up spending millions of dollars trying to manage this land, and it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, absolutely. Lieutenant Governor Hutchison, who's been very supportive of land seizure, and some of these other people definitely need to reconsider that, because that is not the way we need to manage our land in Nevada.
Yeah, I know even before Cliven Bundy started making international headlines, you know, there's been pressure here to provide heightened protection for Gold Butte, and yet since this Bundy scandal has gone off the rails, I know I've spoken with residents of Mesquite who feel like their community is off limits to the feds. Do you hope that with these developments that perhaps there will be finally be an opportunity to perhaps make Gold Butte a national conservation area or a national monument?
You know, that has been our hope for a very long time. We want the area of Gold Butte preserved. We've wanted it preserved even before this whole thing with Cliven Bundy began. I mean, we've been working on this for over 10 years, a coalition of different groups in the community and things like that. And so this is something that our community has wanted for a very long time, because Gold Butte is a special place. It is a place that deserves protection, permanent protection for the long term. So future generations of Nevadans and people all across the globe can go out and explore these beautiful lands. I was just out there in November, and it's just such a special place as a native Nevadan, and there's so many cultural artifacts out there from the Paiutes and just so many amazing treasures we have, and that has to be protected. And it shouldn't just be, for special interests like Cliven Bundy. It shouldn't just be for, a few people to enjoy, like the Bundy family or their militant extremist friends. This should be open to everyone to go out there and enjoy. And so that is our goal, and that has been our goal for a very long time. The mission and the goal of protecting Gold Butte doesn't change. It's just one more roadblock. Hopefully we'll be out of the way now that Bundy has been arrested. But we need to focus on the arrest right now. We need to focus on what just happened last night. And then the monument and the permanent protection, and all of those conversations will happen later down the road. But we need to focus on what just happened last night and ensure that justice is served.
Yeah. Well, finally, what would you say to residents of Mesquite and the larger Virgin Valley who might just feel, war weary after these past 2 years?
I'm sorry. I think that we owe them a huge apology. I feel bad that Nevadans have had to deal with this for so long, especially those people in that community. It's just not fair. Their communities were hijacked and they were taken hostage by the Bundys, and I think it's offensive that it wasn't dealt with then. And I feel bad for the people of Oregon. When we did our press conference the other day, we sent I'm sorry cards to Oregon to say, I'm sorry for us exporting our terrorists from Nevada to Oregon. And so I feel bad for the people of that community too, because these terrorists should have been dealt with years ago. And this situation should have never happened. And we can't allow people like Michelle Fiore to continue to incite violence and incite this hateful rhetoric that's going on within our communities. We can't allow her to hijack this conversation, because she's wrong.